Hey, thank you. Put that down. This feels like a stand-up routine, so hopefully this will be funny. So yeah, hi, my name is Greg. This is my talk. 5 weird tricks you never knew about community management. Number 3 will amaze you. So community managers are much like wrangling and herding cats. You have to listen to the audience, you have to listen to your players, and hopefully incorporate that and filter it back to your development team so that way we can make the appropriate changes and make your players happy. Because after all, it's important to have players as part of your game as you continue to work on it. So yeah, we're going to talk about video games. Hooray, yeah, and community management. That's about like fun and memes and things like that. So yes, excellent. Except I'm a little weird and esoteric, so we're going to talk about weird memes like this one. This is Nietzscheman, and he is the Frederick Nietzsche of Pokemon, and he quotes things from the gay science like God is dead and things like that. Of course, this is a reference to Frederick Nietzsche. So now, before I go on too many tangents, let's really dial down on what this talk is going to be about. This talk is going to be about memes. Awesome, cool, we're doing well. Mustaches. He's got one, I've got one, we're doing okay. 19th century existential philosophers. We're in trouble because we're halfway through this slide and we have not talked about any of the real presentation. App Store optimization. All right, that's weird for community management. Key performance indicators. Again, weird for community management, right? Monetization. Hang on, we might be off the rails for this one. Bears. Okay, cool. Back to the fun. Good, excellent. And your likely future in the video game industry. So, I wanted to psych you out on all the fun stuff because we were going to talk about some heavy things about your career and possible ways that you can get into the gaming industry. This is the actual talk. This is called Content is King, Free-to-Play Games as a Service. So, who am I? How did I get here? We did some of that in the very, very introduction. When I was in college, I didn't know video games as a career or a thing that you could do. I really liked Battlestar Galactica, and I liked Firefly, and I liked pen and paper role-playing games. So Margaret Weiss had this way that you could like playtest games before they were released. I was like, awesome, this is cool, this is a way that I can do a thing. I did also some game reviews for a little while, and I wrote a game script, which I now know is a game design document. Someone said, hey, you should get into the games industry. So I got picked up by this company called Funtank. They were a boutique game studio in New York City, and we made Flash games. We had a Flash game portal that was 2011-ish. We also dabbled in social games on Facebook and things like that. Eventually, we got bought out by Publishers Clearinghouse. Yes, like the big check people, they come to your house with like, you won $1 million with Ed McMahon, except Ed McMahon never worked for Publishers Clearinghouse, but that doesn't matter. And then I came down here to Maryland about 3 years ago to work for Big Huge Games. I worked in their QA department for about 8 months, and then moved over to community management, which I've been doing for about the last 2 years. So, in that time, I've worked for 8.5 years in the game industry, and I've never worked on a title that you had to pay for up front. Isn't that weird to think about? Everything that I've worked on, everything project, all the things that we did, were all free. So nothing cost an upfront purchase. Isn't that weird to make your whole game and your whole career based on that? That's sort of the way that this industry is trending, and it's something that you need to consider when you're looking for studios and looking for your jobs. And why this is important. All right. So who here is an engineer or wants to be an engineer? Some? Handful? Okay, cool. Who here wants to be an artist? Awesome. Cool. Artists. Game designers? Oh, sort of. This is usually the big popular one. Usually people are like, yes, game design is the thing I want to do because it touches everything, but that's cool. Is there anybody here that wants to be a community manager? Awesome, it's difficult. I don't blame you. How about biz development people? Do you want to be the head of your studio someday? Maybe. Some, yeah, a couple of indie entrepreneurs. That's awesome. Cool, cool, cool. So odds are you're looking for your next studio or you're looking to further your career in one of these roles. That's great, cool. So let's look at the traditional studio structure. Usually, the traditional box title game is built like this. You have a handful of people that do a prototype. You move into pre-production. You hire some more people to staff up in order to build your vision into a real thing. When you go into full production, then you hire everybody. And everybody, you get all of your artists, your engineers, your game designers, your QA people, and then you ship it, and at that point, you just need to wait and collect some sales, except there's no project to continue to work on, so a lot of traditional studios will start letting people go at that point. So unfortunately, a lot of the entry-level careers are here. You get hired during the production phase, and then once it ships, you get let go because odds are you're not one of these people that are working on a prototype when you first start in the industry. So the free-to-play model builds studios that'll look like this over time, provided that they're successful, I should say. You wind up with a couple of people that build a prototype. They go into pre-production. They have a minimum viable product, so they try to get to market a lot faster with fewer people, and they build their team as it continues to ship. They'll do patch DLC, and they'll continue to build out their games as you move along. So the free-to-play game model allows them to sort of staff a little bit more sustainably. While they don't explode with numbers, odds are if you find a career in a free-to-play studio, odds are you'll be able to stay in that studio for much longer rather than hopping from studio to studio to studio to fill particular roles. So that's exactly where we showed up there. If you're looking to start your own indie game studio, odds are you're here in these couple of 4 people, and it stays those 4 people the entire time, provided you can actually ship that game. So, I want to go back a little bit into my history. We'll go through it a little bit in order. So, I worked on Flash games at a place called Funtank. Flash, so we were in a weird spot where we did sort of advert games. So advert games started with traditional print advertisement and then digital advertisements like banners and things like that, then to interactive ads into games that sold a product or a service. So Shockwave was one of the first things in the 90s that allowed people to have sort of these interactive experiences on the internet. And then we moved into Flash, which is an Adobe program. It was widely used for animation and for games, and accepted everywhere until the iPhone came out. Because Apple at that point eventually said that they didn't want to support Flash, and we moved in a different direction. They also wanted to support their own environment in the App Store. So that's why there was a large move from off of the web into your phone. This is the Candy Stand Mini Golf. This was maybe the most popular game that we ran, and that was a branded game for Lightsabers. It was called Candy Stand because it was owned by Wrigley's, like the gum company. So a lot of the things we did was for like Sour Patch Kids or Stride Gum and things like that. A lot of branded advertisements. So, advert gaming. Does anybody know one of the first cited digital advert games? Or have a year? I guess. All right, so I looked a little bit, and the earliest one that I could find was this one in 1983. Tooth Protectors by Johnson & Johnson. So you bought your toothbrush or your toothpaste or whatever, and you sent in proof of purchase, and they would mail you this Johnson & Johnson game for the Atari 2600. I had a full manual, and it described all of the game and all of their products that they were trying to sell. Which is pretty fascinating. Again, this was 1983. The other games that came out in this time frame, there was a Kool-Aid game, and then there was a game for Purina Dog Chow. They were both done the same way, where you would buy the product and then shell it away for the game. In 1983, the other thing that notably happened was the video game crash. So a lot of the stuff that were studios sort of collapsed, and then was sort of resurrected by this guy. A couple years later. So why is this, say, advert gaming here on this Mario slide? Well, earlier this year, Nintendo issued a statement saying that the way that they've moved into mobile games is sort of, well, not the same, it's in sort of the similar vein. They use mobile games in order to share their IPs and get brand identification and build their characters. And they don't want to use it as much as a way to monetize individual games. They'd rather use it to build their essential digital empire. So, how did Flash gaming work? So you have your game, right? All you do is play the game. That's not how it works. First, you watch the pre-roll ad. So you watch an ad, cool, and then you get to play the game. And then you're like, oh, I want to submit my score to be on the leaderboard or collect some tickets or whatever. So then guess what? We get to have you watch another ad. Cool. And then we'll send you to the prize center. Awesome. Cool. So these have asterisks because that's where you track the CPM. And CPM is cost per impression. So I don't know who did those acronyms, but you know, good spellers there. And the cost per impression is how many thousands of people watched a single video, and there's a payout revenue that the ad companies will pay you. In modern games, you'll still be able to like play or interact or watch a video in order to earn free currency in your game, or earn free troop tactics, or other things that your game has. So this pricing model, while it was originally built a couple decades ago, still exists in our modern games as well. So let's take a look at the way that we would build our games and build a free-to-play game model from start to finish. We're going to look at a thing called pirate metrics, which is our acquisition, activation, retention, referral, and revenue. Pirates. So we'll go back to games. There we go. You're without doubt the worst community manager I've ever heard of, but you have heard of me. Excellent. Cool. So, we're going to step through this. Acquisition. If you advertise it, they will come, maybe. The way that you can get eyeballs is either you can get paid acquisition, where you can put advertisements out in the world and people can come play your game. But the other way is through organic. You want to make sure that your game or your app or whatever you're working on surfaces high enough in an algorithm. So if you're searching on Google or if you're searching on the Play Store, you want to make sure that your game is the one that surfaces to the bubbles at the top. You want higher retention, longer time on page, and lower bounce rates and things like that. So let's look at an actual example. This is the game that I work on at Big Huge Games. It's called Dominations, and I'm going to read to you because reading is fun. So I'm going to read to you the App Store description. Odds are you've never read the App Store description on any game you've downloaded. Have you? No, of course not. This is not for human beings to read. This is for the machine to read. So this is the App Store, legitimate App Store description for Dominations. Battle nations from throughout history and dominations. Build your empire and command nations as you make them grow from a small village to a thriving metropolis, and battle is one of the great civilizations from the history of the world. Awesome, good, clear, right? Get ready for the rest of those words repeated 100 times. Build a nation starting as early settlement and grow through the ages as the dawn of history to the modern era. Study under history's great at the university like Leonardo da Vinci and Catherine the Great. Build wonders of the world and create technology with historically accurate advancements. Choose from 8 nations and embark on the historic campaign advancing through history. Each civilization from the Romans to the Japanese has a special strength and unique units. Build your army and test your historic might against other players in PvP combat. Or form alliances and conquer the world together. Build your empire and embark on a historical journey of conquest today. Download Dominations today. Download features. Great leaders. At the new university, consult Leonardo da Vinci, Catherine the Great, King Zedong, and other historic thought leaders. Strengthen your nation with the best war strategy. Brand new events. Accomplish fun, limited time goals based on actual events in history. Collect rare rewards to help your nation advance so they can conquer the world. From the Stone Age to the Space Age. Lead a colony of early hunters and gatherers on their conquest through the ages, from the dawn of civilization to the modern era. Design a small civilization and grow it through a thriving metropolis. Build historic wonders of the world, including famous landmarks like the pyramids of Egypt and the Roman Colosseum. Choose your nation and lead your army. Battle with one of 8 fearsome nations through the journey through time. Choose one of the great civilizations from history like the Romans, British, Chinese, French, German, Japanese, Korean, and the Greeks. Tackle historic battle campaigns to collect important resources and upgrade your city as you advance through history. Each civilization has a special strength to help you build the unique units. Oh, it goes on. Battle through history and advance your city like longbowmen, vandals, and the mighty samurai. Discover new technologies. Legendary game designer Brian Reynolds brings history to life in an era as key advancements of each period of history helps you your progress in epic civilization. Research each civilization, new materials, invent advanced weaponry, develop, trade, and grow a bustling economy through scientific discovery, strengthen your troops with better equipment, upgrade your buildings and town center with modern materials, create a war strategy to bolster your defense as you grow stronger. And there's 3 more paragraphs. So, let's take a breakdown of that. Let's actually look at what some of those things say. So, that was 562 words in that description. All right, we mentioned history 12 times, build 10 times, civilization, nation, world, battle, history, historic, war, advance, all are more than 6 words apiece. Each one of those words represents at least 1% of the total word count. So, when the App Store reads that description, because you and I are not going to read that description, that sounds long and boring. When the App Store reads that description, it is going to key in on any of those App Store optimized words, and when you type in the search bar, history game, odds are this is going to bubble up near the top, or as close to the top as we can get it. So, optimization helps your game get more eyeballs through organic traffic. So, content is king. Activation. I should have explained this a little bit. Acquisition is getting people to notice your game. Activation is getting your people to download and play the game. Retention is getting them to come back again the next day. referral is getting them to tell their friends about it, and finally revenue is them to get to pay or to convert in your game. This phrase, content is king, was coined by Bill Gates in January 1996 article. He wrote the following. Content is where I expect much of the real money to be made in the internet, just as it was in broadcasting. The television revolution began a half-century ago, spawned a number of industries, including manufacturing of TV sets. The long-term winners were those who used the medium to deliver information and entertainment. When it comes to an interactive network such as the internet, the very definition of content becomes very wide. For example, computer software is a form of content, an extremely important one, and one that Microsoft will remain by for the most important. Pardon me. So, although he's specifically shilling Microsoft as a core technology, it is true for any technology that we're sort of talking about creating. The fun, unique ideas of your game or the game product that you're working on is really what will capture eyeballs, and hopefully what will allow people to say, hey, that looks neat, to hey, I'm going to play that, to hey, I'm going to convert and spend money on that, so that way you as the game developers can afford to, buy food and things like that. So, there he is. That's Bill Gates talking about Microsoft. So, retention is about keeping things engaging, right? When you're a designer, the D's that you think about when you think about engagement are these, the D20 or D12, your odds and percentages. Your biz dev people are going to think about things in a little different capacity. They've got D's as well, but D1, D7, and D30, I don't see any dice for those guys. That is how many days between when a player first plays your game and when they come back again. So we'll track that long term, the length of a player in a free-to-play game. We'll say, oh, D1 is they come back the very next day. D7 is they come back the very next week. And D30 is they're still playing our game a month later. If we can learn your play patterns, we can hopefully tailor the content more towards you, both with free content and with paid content. The other things is we're going to go through the whole acronym soup here, so please bear with me. We're going to talk about daily active users. That's what DAU stands for. So we're talking about these D retention numbers. We're actually talking about daily active users. There's also monthly active users. It's just a way to count how many people are playing our game either every day or every month, which also feeds into our formula later on, which is ARPDAU, which is the confusing acronym, which is average revenue per daily active user, when you think about how much money every player is bringing into your game or your environment. So those are sort of a breakdown of the retention models. Other retention methods include daily mechanics, your basic daily login bonus, persistent profiles and scores. This is my gamer score from Xbox, so I continue, if I go, consider the next console that I buy, I might consider buying an Xbox because I've already got this gamer score built up, so I might have some brand loyalty based on this retention method that they included, and contests. Now, I said earlier that I work for Publishers Clearinghouse. The mother of all contests are sweepstakes. They have huge, fabulous prizes. Many are answered, few will win. Void or prohibited, no purchase necessary, not available in all areas. See contest rules for more details. And then there's a snappy reminder about the contest prize. That's how a sweepstakes works, right? That has allowed me, working through those, allowed me to think about really unique design constraints. See, if you are designing a sweepstakes game, it becomes gambling very quickly if you have the ability to lose. So this is a series of 9 mini games that I helped design. They all took about a minute to play, and they were much more experiences than games, although they were digital and interactive. You would play one of these games, and then you would get a sort of scratch card or some other instant win thing where you either win a hard currency, which would be money, or a soft currency, which would keep you in our ecosystem. It would allow you to say, oh, I'm now building up my soft currency and sort of going to retain, sort of similar to your gamer score, I want to come back to this environment because I'm building up, and numbers going up feels good for human beings. So soft currencies is definitely a good way to retain players because they don't want to lose that number, especially if they feel like they have that sunk cost fallacy of like, oh, I'm investing in this and I'm building up my score, so it must be important and then come back and build up my score later on. Referrals. We worked in social gaming for a little while. This was the big key thing in the, I guess, early 2010s and late 2000s. Was these social games. You would invite your friends to play, and the goal was to have them go viral since you weren't have any upfront cost. You want to get as many people in that acquisition phase, and referral is a great way to get an active players, friends, family, relatives, whoever else, back to the top of this acquisition funnel. So if you're playing a game and you can say, oh, hey, help me out with energy, that introduces more people to the top of your acquisition frame. So, and then we finally come to revenue. Eventually, some people will convert on the thing that you offer in your game. So let's look at some traditional examples. We talked first about that first studio example with that big burst of employees. So if you've got a single game that you're selling for $60 a pop, all right, that's cool. You have all of these people that don't have that much money to spend and have a finite budget, and you have a small number of people here with the vertical access that have maybe way more money than they should to spend on games and activities. So if you have a traditional single price model, you're going to miss out on some of that, those offering what is the best for some of those consumers. So yeah, you've got people that would have paid more for this, and this person over here says, oh, it's too much for my blood. I guess I'll torrent it. No, don't torrent it. Don't do that. Just, we'll build a free-to-play game, so you don't have to worry about stealing or torrenting or anything like that. So if we have a free-to-play game, we can, of course, offer a $60 package in-game, or we could offer a $99 package for somebody who has more money to spend and wants to be able to advance faster, or we will offer a $1.99 in case somebody says, oh, you know what, I don't want to spend $60, but $2, that's less than a cup of coffee. I like this game, I either want to support the developers, or there's this really neat feature that I want to be able to add, or like a neat skin for my guy, or a neat gun. Cool, $2, here you go. So this, we've now filled in much more of this thing, and you can do all sorts of intermediate prices, and then you wind up with a much larger revenue share, or a much larger way to earn money in your free-to-play game than you would on a single price title. So we sort of talked about some of these ARPDAO currency types. Convert, cool. Convert is just when you begin to spend money. So cool, we can actually address most of these. We can skip over that slide. So when do you design monetization for your game? Right now. If you are working on a brand new game, you sort of can't shoehorn it in. You need to begin thinking about the way that your game is going to make money, because that informs other design decisions. As I had said with some of those free-to-play games, we needed to think about no-lose conditions. So we needed to, because there was ad supported, and based on a sweepstakes, we needed to make sure that that we filled in all of our boxes. So we were thinking about monetization as we were thinking about design, and we were thinking about the other constraints, such as sweepstakes. So yeah, so the way that your game monetizes is a constraint you should think about right away. So we've talked about a lot of the funnel, we've talked a lot of good things. Let's talk about some of the downsides of free-to-play. So we've got two of Pandora's boxes, right? You got your Skinner box, you got your loot box. Ooh, boo, let's villainize these things, right? Well, whatever, let's go through this step by step. A Skinner box sort of is a push-button, get-reward type machine. He did experiments mostly on rats where he would either feed them pellets of food or electroshocks in order to get them to do a learn-to-train behavior. This was something that was an easy go-to in the early days of free-to-play games because it was a model that sort of was easy to work on. But the ethics of a lot of modern game developers have sort of seen this and largely moved away from this model. So we want to actually make engaging things that actually feel like games and not just push-button time wasters. The other one is loot boxes. This is based on the Kompu Gacha mechanics. This is a Japanese principle. It stands for complete gacha. Gacha is the noise that a vending machine makes when you turn the vending machine, in Japan at least, when you turn the vending machine and a mystery prize comes out. So that's where the words come from. It's an unfortunate choice of words because in America, gotcha definitely means something a little more sinister. But no, honestly, they're just trying to refer to this. The sort of, it's, you put your money in and you get a mystery prize on the inside. It should be fun, it should be good. Unfortunately, when they first were released, the odds were not apparent and it felt like a trap. So more recently, a lot of studios have begun displaying odds. Some countries have made them flat out illegal. But there's a huge murky gray area with the loot box and things like that. If you go by the very strict definition of a mystery reward based on something that you interact with, do that in random drops for enemies become mystery boxes. If you have paid for a game in full and you go fight a monster in a dungeon and it's got a rare chance of showing up and you don't get it, did you have that gotcha moment? So that becomes a murky area. A lot of studios are just deciding to again, developing ethics, which is going to be probably a really big conversation for games in the future, but it's sort of a stumbling block as we discover our own medium. So free-to-play games as a service. There's also this is one of the more recent articles I found. Pitchfork promises no free-to-play junk in Borderlands 2, but there will be cosmetic microtransaction and special edition boost mods. This is precisely what we're talking about with that price model. There's a single price of entry, plus you can spend for mods, you can spend for other things. You get a larger section of that spender engagement curve. It's not to be mean, it is not to be conniving, it is the fact that games are expensive, and if we can figure out a way to monetize a couple of better things, especially if they're optional, then that seems to be accepted by our public. Yeah, free-to-play junk, because you keep using that word, but you don't think you mean what you think you mean. So the things you need to keep in mind, it's expensive and difficult to acquire new users. That big funnel, all those steps that we went through, you start with a large number of people and then you funnel quickly down to just your payers. You usually don't have choke points in games where you're forcing people to pay. That usually feels bad. That would jeopardize your retention. You want people to come back and play your game day after day. You want that good word of mouth where people will say, hey, I played this great game, you should try it and you should download it now. So those choke points where people are saying, oh, you need to buy this loot box to advance, or oh, you need to pay this paywall to advance, that's bad for business. That funnels people out. You want those high retentions. You want people to come back to your game day after day. So only a small percentage will come back as players. Technology is trendy, and it's important to keep up with what's going on. So as we said, we talked about the evolving ethics of Skinner boxes and loot boxes, and games largely have gotten smaller and closer. We talked about the Atari game, which, in my opinion, the home consoles sort of replaced the arcades. You had arcades and then turned into home consoles, which were smaller and closer to you. And the death of Flash, the home computer, and we had Flash on our websites, got smaller and closer on your iPhone, and that sort of killed off Flash as well. So it's important to consider your future technologies and see what the other industry leaders are doing as things continue to get smaller and closer. I mean, eventually maybe we'll have brain chips that we'll play our games on. It'll be weird for you and I, but our kids are going to love it. So, I think that's all I got, and that is free-to-play games and games as a service. Are there any questions? If not, you guys have been awesome. Thank you so much for letting me rant about all this stuff. This has been really fun to put together.